To celebrate 50 years of Maccas, we're introducing the Mac family. And with every medium or large, Mac Junior, Big Mac or Grand Big Mac meal, you'll get one of 6 free Maccas glasses, but only for a limited time. Available after 10:30am while stocks last.
You're listening to Crunch Time.
Silvani, this will stretch him. You're not sure he's got 53 in him. He'll need every bit of it. He kicks it long. It's just leaking to the right. Didn't quite get to Conning up. Snap on goal. Has he kicked it? I think he has. Sard into the pocket. No mark. Comes to the back. There is Walsh. He kept it in when he should have probably kept it out. Here it comes Kennedy. Back to Walsh. Snap around the corner. That's the goal. Right there and then. Put down your glasses. Goal of the night right there. Game, set, match. So the Blues fans, they beat the Crows. They beat Fremantle. They're under the pump. But this could be a season-defining win. 16 points. David T. Another big sigh of relief.
As a group, I just thought that they showed how much they really wanted it and played with that passion, and it was probably missing for 3 weeks. We had 3 games where we didn't see it, but to the players' credit, they've worked hard, they've continued to train hard. I haven't lost any belief in this group. I still believe in this group. Bradley, we've still got a lot of work to do, but I think our defence over the last 2 weeks has been a lot more solid, and their ability to connect from lines has really improved.
In the midst of an external review, Carlton get 2 wins in a row, and they just manage to keep that finals door ever so slightly ajar, and they deny a disappointing Dockers outfit a chance to jump into the 8s.
Wrapped up Green, back to Hill, Whitfield cruising, runs to 45, runs to 35, what a goal! Magnificent Lockie Whitfield. Brayshaw, Jordan, can they build something promising off halfback? Sweeping ball to Hunt. We know he loves to run and go. Accelerates, 2 bounces, Hunt. Will he try and bite off too much? 3rd time he's been pinned for holding the ball. McDonald and Himmelberg, terrific from Haynes, goes in. Reed, there it is. The Giants are in the 8. They've come after 2 poor weeks and they've conquered the top of the table team. And at the end of this, a fantastic win. They find themselves inside the top 8.
I mean, that's great education, great learning. We didn't get that right last week when Hawthorn, came at us in the second, and we didn't get that right. But this week against Melbourne, we definitely did. And look, there's all these individual moments in games we know that add up. But some guys that mightn't have had their best game hung in there. So it was an unbelievably good, mature win.
I think we bellied the ball on snaps probably 4 or 5 times, but we had shots at goal, which we weren't getting in the first half. So that is frustrating. It's frustrating for the playing group as much as the coaching and our supporters.
The Giants continue to perplex. They defy the odds, unable to beat 17th and 18th in recent weeks. They get into the 8 by knocking out the first place Demons, and do the D's have a problem up forward? It looks like they might. Corridor beckons. Bergman, juggling attempt. Just enough pressure came from Mitchell. Not enough at ground level. Mitchell didn't chase him. Bergman made him pay. Motlop can get it to Powell Pepper to Georgiades, who started all with the smother. Unselfish give to Dixon for his 4th. Take a bow, Mitch Georgiades. The smother, the follow-up, the goal assist. Good night, Hawthorn. And there's a siren. Port Adelaide Power party poopers in Sean Burgoyne's 400th game, but they climb into the top 4, leapfrogging Geelong, a win they had to have, and they did the job.
I thought the first half was really, really strong, and I'm really pleased with the way we performed, because Hawthorn had a lot going on this week. We all understand that, and we acknowledge, and I should acknowledge that right from the start, that Sean's magnificent achievement at 400 games. And they're games that are really dangerous, and they're really hard to sometimes play, and I'm really proud of the way our first half went.
The Power deny the fairy tale in Sean Burgoyne's 400, but they climb into the 4, so there is a heap to talk about on Sunday Crunch Time. Yes, indeed. Good afternoon to you, wherever you're finding us, however you're finding us. Welcome to Sunday Crunch Time. You can get involved all day on the social feedback for Summit Internet, faster business internet. Head to @AFL Nation on Twitter. You can text us 0433 98 11 16 as I introduce the team this afternoon. A man who just makes words sound better. Matty Hill, good afternoon to you.
Sammy, lovely to have you here as well. And, of course, well called last night. The party poopers, eh? It was a little bit like that. A great presentation as well for Sean Burgoyne's 400th game. Gee, I enjoyed that in the lead-up. And today, Sydney and West Coast. Well, you think about the great AFL rivalries, don't you, of Collingwood and Essendon, Collingwood, Carlton, Hawthorn, Essendon. But what about these two between 2005 and 2007 playing 6 absolute thrillers in a row? Of course, 2 of them were grand finals and the unique situation of it being played in Geelong this afternoon. So looking forward to later on.
Yeah, a man who knows Geelong better than most, Liam Pickering. Hello to you.
Hello, Sammy, and hello to you,
Hey,
Matty.
Pickers.
It's good to be here. It's who would have ever thought that middle of the football season, we're round 16 and Sydney Swans are taking on the West Coast Eagles at Kardinia Park. That's basically what's going on today, and I don't think there'll be a really big crowd there, but it'll be a good test for both teams to play to ground, and it's just unusual for them. And it's a foreign setup. It is a different ground, so the Swans have got a decent recent record there. Not so much the West Coast, but it's a whole different assignment when you're playing against neutral teams at that venue rather than playing the Cats.
2006, the last time that the Eagles have got a win there.
And even that day, they were 50 points down.
Yeah.
And they got up and somehow won. It was their premiership year, of course.
Swans have had wins in 16, 17 and 18 against the Cats. Got a better record than most down there. And it's the first time, Pickers, that a game's been played for premiership points at the ground that doesn't include Geelong.
Include the Cats, yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It's such a strange setup, but it is a very, very interesting game given the context of where the 8 sits at the moment, and both teams on the same points, not much in percentage but between them, and it's opening up. And whoever wins this game's got basically a 2-game break, and they won't go out of the 8, the winner.
No, that's right, because Geelong are sitting on 44, Sydney 32, 32 West Coast, and then you've got GWS, which half a game behind them. So it's clear air for the winner, no doubt about that.
Let's get into the Sunday Crunch, because there was a lot that happened yesterday, and a lot of it has top 8 and top 4 ramifications for the year. And this is what we're going to be confronting every week as we turn really for home in the back third of the year. There's 7 rounds to go after this. So a lot of these games are going to have a bearing on what we can expect come September. So yesterday, MCG, the Giants get their second game in a row there. And as I said in the intro, Pickers, they continue to perplex the Giants because they couldn't beat North Melbourne, who are 18th. They couldn't beat Hawthorn, who are 17th, to get into the 8. But to get in, they beat the team at the top of the ladder.
It's staggering behaviour, really, from a team that are very, very fluky and very, very difficult to catch. They're as hard to catch as Mongolia Marshall. And look, some of us did catch Mongolia Marshall yesterday in the race at 40-1, but I mean, it was one of those really strange ones. But
just a little humble brag in there to start with.
It's just the Marshall got us home, gave us a bit of a result yesterday.
Tracker, eh?
The wet tracker down the outside. Matty Hill called the action beautifully down the outside. Anyway, but it was like that with the Giants. They were superb. They really were. We watched them last week. We've called their game. We've called their last 2 games, actually.
Yeah, we have.
And again, they were just nowhere against North. Somehow found a way to get a draw. Last week, they were good in the first quarter, poor for 2 quarters, had a bit of a run, but then when the whips were cracking at the end of the game, it was all Hawthorn. They were all over them in the end. So I didn't see that coming, not at the MCG, but take your hat off to Leon Cameron's men. They were fantastic.
Speaking of coming, Isaac will be joining us on the other side of the break. Yeah, he has, and had some important moments in the last quarter.
He did.
Didn't fall into a hole, put himself in the way of Max Gawn to be able to disrupt him in the air, showed some courage to get in his way, to deny him a chance to take a mark late in that game. He had more contested possessions than anyone and a couple of big spoils that really mattered when the game was on the line. So 7-13-55 Melbourne, 9-10-60 for the Giants. Melbourne have more scoring shots. Green kicked 3 goals from 7 touches and Fritsch got 3 for the Demons as well, and is their leading goal kicker this year. But we've got to address, and firstly, we commend the Giants absolutely. They showed grit. They had their colours lowered in the midfield last week against Hawthorn, and this week they were plus 15 in clearances, plus 5 in centre clearances, despite being minus 34 in disposals and minus 1 for inside 50s. But the elephant in the room is Melbourne's forward line. The last 3 weeks are averaging 8 goals a game. So 7 goals yesterday, 9 goals v the Dons, 9 goals v the Pies. They were averaging around 14 earlier in the year. That's It's dropped to 12 a game now to be 6th, and their accuracy is 14th in the competition. It's a concern.
Well, it's a bit of a concern. I mean, I think it's every team has a little flat spot throughout the course of the year. I'm not dropping off Melbourne by any stretch.
No.
I think they're so well set up at the back end. They've got a very good midfield. Their forward line does need a little bit of work, and I think they've got players they can bring back. You know, they haven't, like Ben Brown, Sam Wiedemann are there. Now, they're holding off really using them at the moment, and when they do, I think you'll find it'll be a different setup. I think they've backed in what the system that worked pretty well early on, but they might want to relook at it. But overall, I'm still not overly concerned with Melbourne. I think they're still in the best couple of teams in the competition.
Well, you said last week they were the best team in the competition,
Yeah, well,
so is it a loss they had to have, a lull before
Well, not so much.
onslaught?
Not really, because they've had a couple of pretty average games anyway. Like they just beat Essendon. They lost to Adelaide.
And to Collingwood.
Yeah, they've lost to teams that aren't really challenging. And you say the Giants are going to challenge, but they're not really going to challenge for the premiership. So they've been able to get up for the big teams, and they've done really well against the big teams. So I'm not overly concerned with them. I just think on what I've seen this year so far, that Melbourne I thought were clearly the best team. I'm now starting to think the Bulldogs and Melbourne might be the best two teams.
Bulldogs can go top today if and probably when they beat North Melbourne. They've got a much superior. They've got a superior percentage. So, looking at the goal kickers for Melbourne, Fritsch has got 31. He kicked 3 yesterday. McDonald was goalless yesterday. Has got 24 for the year. Pickett's got 21. Petrarca is their next leading goal kicker, 4th. He kicked 2 behinds yesterday. But yesterday they didn't get a goal out of McDonald, Gawn and Jackson, which are the 3 tools that they use inside forward 50. So
I noticed McDonald was up the ground a lot more yesterday.
Yep.
Like he was a long way from goals.
He ran the furthest than any other player yesterday, 14.2k.
A lot of marks out in the wing, which obviously difficult to score goals from the wing. But if you can get him a bit deeper, he'll be a bit more dangerous. I mean, I do like the way he plays because you need that player that can be a connector from half back to half forward. But you do need to have someone in behind that spot as well. And they just didn't have that yesterday, which was disappointing. And I thought they defended really well, especially when they lost Buckley as well. The Giants, who's been a really important player for them.
So when it comes to their forward line, is it Ben Brown? Is it Wiedemann? Well, Simon Goodwin, who did lament the chances that they had yesterday, we'll hear about that in just a moment. But he did speak about Ben Brown and Sam Wiedemann.
It was certainly something we'll look at. There's no question about that. I think if you look through the history of the season, I think we've lost 2 games playing 3 tools and 1 game playing 2 tools. But we're not naive to the fact that we probably need to execute better inside 50. We need to score a little bit more. As I said, it's something we'll continue to look at. The key thing is that those guys get themselves in really good form, and that'll give themselves the best opportunity to play. But we're just going to continue to find ways where we can execute better and build our game, and today wasn't that.
So it seems like they've still got some decisions to make, and on the positive side of it, Pickers, they've banked enough wins so that you can experiment a little bit without running the risk of dropping out of top 4.
Oh, absolutely. They'll need to pull the trigger soon. What you don't want to be doing is going with the structure for 22 weeks and getting to the finals and throwing it all around.
Yep.
I don't think. I think you'd need to have a look at it before the finals. And I think what's Ben Brown played 2 games maybe?
I think he played 3, but he
manages played a bit early.
Manages to always get a couple of goals.
Ben Brown,
yeah,
he's a good player.
No, that's what I'm saying. But even in the games when he's been out for such a long time, he's just still trying to put him.
I guess is my point. And we know what you're going to get with Ben Brown. Ben Brown is a lead at the ball, put your big long arms up and take a mark. That's pretty much him. He's not doing too much tricky. He's not running back with the ball. Occasionally he'll get it out the back, but he's really just running straight at the ball, which is pretty predictable. But sometimes you need some predictability when it comes to being able to structure up around that.
So as Sammy touched on, earlier in the year, Melbourne averaged 14 goals. Mm-hmm. Is that enough to win a premiership?
14 goals is, yeah. Absolutely it is, yeah. Yep. 8 goals isn't. You're not going to win too many flags with 8 goals, which is what they kicked. What did they kick yesterday? 7 goals.
Averaging 8 over the last 3 weeks.
So, well, that's not going to win them a flag, but, I mean, early season form, it certainly is. Yeah, absolutely. 14 goals will get you a win.
Now, Melbourne did come late towards the end of this game, and there was a trio of holding the ball decisions against Jaden Hunt, who got caught 3 times holding the ball.
Yeah, he was taking the game on, Sammy. I don't think anyone...
I'm just talking about the moments, some of the moments. So, Giants, their pressure was fantastic. They had 16 tackles in the last quarter. 5 of them ended up in holding the balls. Such was the effectiveness of their tackling and their pressure. Simon Goodwin spoke about the missed opportunities in the last quarter.
I think it's frustrating in the end. You know that you've got the game back looking the way it should look. You're getting your opportunities, you're getting your time in half. and we just weren't able to maximise it. I think we bellied the ball on snaps probably 4 or 5 times, but we had shots at goal, which we weren't getting in the first half. So that is frustrating. It's frustrating for the playing group as much as it is the coaching and our supporters, because you've got momentum in the game and you can't capitalise on it.
So obviously there's the frustration there for Melbourne. It's, as you say, not panic stations yet, but there are some areas of concern, and you've got 7 weeks to sort them out before the final start.
Which is more than enough time.
Yep.
Which is why I haven't had a good look at their draw. I mean, have we got their run home there?
I've got it somewhere. I'll get.
I know next week. Next week, who have they got next week? I'm having a look at it. They've got a decent game, I think. Melbourne and Port Adelaide Thursday night at Adelaide. They're the Thursday night game, so that's going to be tough.
One for them.
That's a big game for them.
And this is the thing about their run home.
So you don't want to start slipping on banana peels against teams like Giants, like Collingwood, and then you come up against and you don't handle the top teams.
Which they've been doing well this year.
Very well.
After Port Adelaide, they've got Hawks at the MCG. They've got the Gold Coast at Metro. Well, this is where they're supposed to play.
Yep.
Then they've got the Bulldogs, the Eagles, the Crows, and Geelong. That's their last 4 weeks. So 3 out of their last 4 games are top 8 contenders, and 2 of those are top 4 contenders.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. Where's the Cats game at? They must be at home at Geelong.
At GMHBA.
Yeah, that's going to be a test for them. So, and they've got the Bulldogs who are in super form, and West Coast in Perth, is it?
West Coast is supposed to be in Perth.
Yeah, so there you go. Well, it's a good test.
I mean, could be in Wangaratta by then.
you do make a good point, Matt.
Yes, often does. So that's from the Melbourne point of view. So really interesting to see how they manage this and what they decide on in the run home. And I think there is a danger that they do drop a couple of games. Spoke to Peter Sumich during the week on my show, and I said that I think they drop the third. I think they lose some games in the back end, but still stay inside the top 4. Peter Sumich was looking at their run home and said, I think I can see them falling out of the 4.
It's interesting. Well, there's not much between them. They're a game on top at the moment. They'll be second after today because the Bulldogs should handle North. But they're only one game ahead of Brisbane, Port Adelaide and Geelong. So if they lose to Port Adelaide next week, they're out of the top 3. Well, they're out of the top 3, that's for sure.
But that confuses me. So he thinks they'll fall out of the top 4, but we're talking about them as premiers.
Well, he wasn't.
Yeah,
talking about them as being premiers.
No, he can see them falling to 4th and probably even 5th.
Yeah, I'm not so
sure.
What
he said.
I'm not
so he's
sure
obviously
about
worried about what's going on with them.
Well, from a forward line point of view, yes, but also looking at just some of the draws of the other teams on the way home. I mean, the Western Bulldogs, they play Sydney next week. But then they'll play Melbourne and Port Adelaide are the only other top 8 contenders in their run home. So I think Western Bulldogs will finish the season on top of the ladder.
Looks like it.
Brisbane only play 2 top 8 teams. One of those is Richmond, who are out of the top 8 now, and they've got West Coast in the last game of the year, and that's at the Gabba. So Brisbane have got a charmed
massive
home.
chance to finish in the top couple.
Yeah, and they've done that for the last 2 years, Brisbane.
They have.
So,
well, Melbourne are the lowest scoring side of the top 5 teams.
Yep.
But they defend really well.
Yes.
So that's why their percentage is 128. It's not over the top. It's not as good as Bulldogs, Brisbane, it's just ahead of Geelong and Port Adelaide. So,
history tells us, though, that doesn't win your premierships. Ross, what's the one thing that Ross Lyons said when they said, what would you want to do if you were to come back and coach again? And one of the first things he said was, I would hire a top-notch attacking assistant coach. Yeah. Because he knew what the things were that maybe that they... That
well, he didn't think of that in 2 stints at over 10 years?
But that's what I'm saying. So he's looked back.
He's gone away and thought about it.
He's looked back on the history. I'm drawing those dots. But that was one of the top 2 things he said about what he would want to do and what he would need to come back into coaching. And that would be a really shrewd offensive mind to complement him.
Well, it's interesting that he said that because he was stubborn the other way when he was actually in the job. So he's now gone away, had a bit of a think about it, had a couple of years away because he coached flat out from St Kilda straight into Fremantle, really. He didn't have a break, so maybe he has looked at it, but he was very, very adamant when he was coaching that he was on the right track. But he also was adamant that Sean Burgoyne's nickname's Sugar. So there you go.
So as we finish up, so well done to the Giants because their season is absolutely still alive. They get into the top 8, courtesy of some other results going their way, but they got to win against the team on top of the ladder and it'll give them tremendous confidence in their run home. So their run home is Gold Coast next week. They've got a tough one though. They've got the Swans, Essendon, Port Adelaide, Geelong, Richmond, Carlton to finish off the year.
So you don't need to beat them all to be a deserved finals contender anyway, really. So that's probably not a bad draw. I mean, it's a tough draw on paper, but if you're going to get there, you're getting there in good form.
And Josh Kelly yesterday to finish up, 29 disposals and a goal, had more pressure acts than anybody, a game high in tackles, There's a decision for him to make at the end of the year. Does he trigger his 8 for 8, or does he?
God, I believe half these contracts for
Well, that's what the reported 8 for 8.
The
reported 8 for 8, or with reports now that North Melbourne are looking at a possible substantial offer for him. Would there be other teams looking at? So 5 weeks ago we were saying, gee, Josh Kelly's not going to get anywhere near that.
$8 million over 8 years for Josh Kelly.
I'm not saying it. Reports are saying it.
Yeah, I'm not convinced there'll be too many players. Not too many teams will pay that.
But what I'm asking is, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, his form has been A+.
Absolutely, it has. Him, Whitfield. Now they got Green back in there. It makes a huge difference when those gun players are playing well.
Let's turn our attention to yesterday, because the other game that had top 8 ramifications, the Carlton keep that candle just flickering. There's a lot of wind, but somehow the flame hasn't truly extinguished. They win 2 in a row, and we're not getting carried away, but that's the mathematical equation that confronts us. They're a game and a half outside the 8. Freo had one job, and that was to get a win at the MCG, which is a ground they've barely played at over the last 3 years. They kicked 8-16 to Carlton, and they lost by 16 points. Carlton kicked 4-2 in the first quarter. Freo kicked the 4 behinds. Carlton still, though, despite having a 28-point lead, did give that up, and Freo got back in front in the last quarter. But to Carlton's credit, they were able to scrap and claw and fight their way through to a 16-point win in the midst of an external review pick.
It was a great win. It really was. It was a good game of footy. They started well, started very sharp like they were in that second quarter last game. And all of a sudden, they got a bit of belief, and then Fremantle came, as you'd expect them to, blew a few opportunities. But when the game was on the line in the last quarter, Carlton stood up. Don't worry about that. I mean, Fremantle kept coming, but the Blues found a way to win. And, well, I mean, at the end of the day, Fremantle aren't going to win the flag, but it was an important win for the footy club.
But something has flickered. Something has happened. It's just the wick has just been lightened a little, because 2 weeks ago, there even seemed to be a disconnect. David Teague and the players just didn't seem. There was no buy-in. He was saying he needed buy-in, and he's put
defensively buy-in is what he wanted. Yeah,
he's put Walsh out to the wing, and he's taken that and played well. There just seems to be a bit of belief there. I think it's a real positive.
They've taken the game on a lot more. I can tell you that over the last 2 games, and I watched them pretty closely, obviously because of Teague, but it's a very interesting scenario with them. I think Nick Newman's made a huge difference to that back line. Gives them a bit of steeliness. You know what you're going to get with Wiedering. Jones is a very good player.
12 intercepts for Wiedering yesterday, 4 contested marks.
They had another sensational year. He really has. He's a terrific player. And Jones is, he's either hot or cold, but when he's hot, he's really good, and when he's cold, he's horrible.
They're both in the top 5 for one-on-one.
He's a good defender.
One-on-one contests.
He's a very good defender. They are 2 key defenders that a lot of clubs would love to have. But they were getting beat at ground level. But I thought Tommy Williamson came in last night and did a pretty good job. Newman was great. Walsh, who was being tagged, and Sarong's a feisty little bugger, as we know, and a good little run-with player, and a bit better than that, actually, but that's what he's doing at the moment, the role.
Yep.
He had a great battle with Walsh, but Walsh willed himself into the game late in the game in particular.
And that goal was...
Eddie was really important. Jack Silvani played a great game.
Yep.
Overall, I thought they were superb. Cripps was pretty good.
Well, and speaking of Cripps, so the malignment this year is trying to do too much, maybe trying to get whatever was happening with the contract to try and prove a point, to try and do all those other things. Yesterday, he did what he's done his whole career. He sacrificed his body and can willed himself through where others may have gone, I think I'm done for the day. He kicks the collision where he went to kick the ball and caught, I can't remember who it was, but it really hurt his right ankle. He continues to play. He had over 20 disposals. He had 9 score involvements. He was kicking on his left foot through the game. I mean, 26 years old, he has given of himself more than any other player I can sort of think of, given that from his second year, he had to bear the brunt of all their contested work in the middle.
Absolutely. It sums up the position Carlton are in. If you've got a kid that age that's had to cart around on his back, a whole of his older and more experienced and more highly paid teammates. But that being said, he's the captain. He's had an up and down type of season, but his last couple of games have been really good. And he leads from the front, no question. But I think when they do their best and fairest counting, if you're doing it right now, it'll be Walsh 1, Wiedering 2. I think it's pretty clear. They've been their best 2 players this year.
Their run home isn't that hard.
Well, they're going to play the Cats this week.
Yeah, but after that, there's Collingwood, but then North, St Kilda.
All games they can win.
Gold Coast.
They should win them.
David Teague yesterday was really happy with the passion that they showed. We'll play some audio of him a little later because we've got a break, we've got a hit. But
I don't want your arms getting.
I know you don't like it, so I calmly
get to a break.
I just calmly, rationally explained to you the situation.
He's the world charades champion.
He is. He was doing it even on my radio show yesterday.
On my radio show.
That is my show you were on. You were a guest, my friend.
I know. I was just happy to be there. You were very accommodating and such a gracious host. Hey, Paddy Dow. Amazing when you play young players in the position you draft them to play.
I wanted to talk about him.
11 disposal in the first quarter, 22 for the game. His ball use was fantastic and his decision-making even better.
I wouldn't know Paddy Dow if I fell over him. I mean, I know who he is, but gee, I thought he was terrific. He's had that much pressure on that kid, and I thought he actually got him rolling last night. I thought some of his contested stuff was great. His ball use was good. And he's a lot more powerful than I thought he was. So well done to Paddy Dow.
Absolutely. So Isaac Cumming is going to join us on the other side of this. Sunday crunch time. You can get yourself involved with us at any time. We'll be back after this.
You're listening to Crunch Time.
It's an unbelievably awesome effort from our group. It's extremely proud. And I think our members and our supporters that are not here can watch that on TV and be really wrapped with the intent, the willingness to stay the cause when it looked a bit rocky at the moment in the back half of the game when they were coming really hard. But it's a great experience for a lot of young kids that play MCG Saturday afternoon, real cold wintry day in July, and salute.
Leon Cameron, the Giants coach, just absolutely wrapped with the unbelievable, awesome effort of the Giants yesterday, who knock off the top of the table Demons to jump up over Richmond into the top 8. And one young man who had some crucial moments in the last quarter was Isaac Cumming. He put himself in a hole in front of the oncoming Max Gawn to deny him a chance to take a late mark. A couple of big spoils, a couple of big contested wins. He was instrumental in them holding on to get that win, and Isaac Cumming's been good enough to jump on the line with us. Hello to you, Isaac.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Oh, we're very well. After a few really disappointing weeks and where you might have felt like, geez, have we blown our chance to get into the top 8? Has it happened again? You're 17th and 18th you play and you'd think surely we could knock them off. It doesn't work, and then you come up against the top of the table Ds and you get the job done. It was a big day and you must have been absolutely wrapped as a team.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. It was a very good day and a performance that we're really proud of. And yeah, look, you're right. We do love playing the good teams and probably need to improve on the other games. But, look, we'll take that win and move on to the next one.
Before we get through sort of the real positives of the day, the negative is the injury, of course. Your partner in crime, one of your partners in crime down back in young Buckley. When things like that happen and you see someone you spend a lot of time with week in, week out go down, does it distract you mentally? I mean, how hard did you find it to not be concerned with him but just get on with the job that you had to do?
Yeah, look, obviously very, very disappointing news. But, it doesn't really if you're talking about during the game, it didn't really affect any of us, I don't think, because we know how positive Bucks is and how good of a bloke he is, and we know that he'll handle that really well. But, obviously after the game, once we sort of had our minute to ourselves and we're reminded that he's obviously hurt himself, it was quite upsetting and really disappointing. And, we all feel for him. But like I said before, he's a type of character that'll bounce back and get through it really well. And, we'll be here to support him through that.
Did you get to speak to Jack after the game? And what do we know yet, if anything, about the length of time that he'll be out for?
We spoke to him. He was at the hotel last night and, big smile on his face. But, it doesn't look great. I think it could be sort of the ACL, MCL sort of set up. But I think that's yet to be confirmed with scans. But it'll be a pretty decent stint on the sidelines, I think.
Now, Isaac, tell us, how are you enjoying life away from Brisbane before we get back onto the game? Because away from Sydney. You're in Melbourne. You're hubbing it. You're living in town, I believe. Are you guys in the Sofitel, aren't you, in the city?
We're south at Sofitel. Yep.
But are you pretty free to roam around and actually have a reasonably normal life in Melbourne?
Yeah, no, we are. Obviously we're under the restrictions that every other Victorian are under at the moment. But, yeah, we're free to do what we like. It's obviously probably better than the setup we had in Sydney. We'd probably be stuck in our house at Sydney. But, yeah, no, we're really enjoying it down here. And like you said, the Sofitel is a really nice setup. So happy days at the moment.
Yeah, and the training, I was talking to one of the coaches the other day, and he said, that all the clubs have been really accommodating, letting the teams from interstate able to, letting them train at their ground. So where are the Giants been training? Has it been a mixed up?
Yeah, no, we've been at Punt Road most days. Richmond have been really good to us, and we accommodated them pretty well when they came to Sydney. So they're returning the favour there. But yeah, Punt Road's been our sort of second home at the moment while I've been up here.
It's living the dream, isn't it? You're from Broken Hill, aren't you, Isaac?
Yeah,
that's
Paradise
right.
Hill.
Living the dream, training at Punt Road, winning matches at the MCG on a Saturday. It's all happening. Started 2021. Your role was to really consolidate that back line, some added responsibility, and with young man Buckley, you're seemingly enjoying that responsibility and playing really well.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely enjoying playing sort of week in, week out. A goal that I set at the start of the year to play every game this year, and so far so good. But I mean, in terms of the responsibility, I don't feel like I have too big a responsibility in terms of leading that back line. I've obviously got my role within the team, but I've got some great leaders around me within Phil and Hayner and stuff like that. So for now, it's just sort of play my role and help where I can.
Who's taken you under their wing since you got to the club, Isaac? There's always, when a young player comes in, you normally gravitate to your mates the same age, but you also, when you're in an area of the ground that you're in the back part, you normally get taken under the wing by one of the senior players in particular. Who's that been for you?
I'd probably say it's Nick Haynes or Lockie Whitfield. Obviously, Witt has played a couple of years down back, and Haynes has been there most of his career. So, them two have been really, really good support for me and provide plenty of feedback and advice. And then I think at the moment it's more so Hayner rather than Witters. But, Nick Haynes has been unreal for me, and, I've got a lot to thank him for.
How do you keep yourselves up and about and positive about the game coming in? So mentally, I could imagine that there would be a few demons to look at the fact that we couldn't beat North, we couldn't beat Hawthorn. How do we keep ourselves up and about and be positive about our chances against the team at the top of the ladder, let alone those at the bottom of the ladder? So what went into the preparation this week, Isaac?
Yeah, obviously it's an area that we have to get better at, but we learn a lot from those games. The preparation for the Melbourne game hasn't really been too different from other weeks. Our main training was really good and really strong, and I think the main message around the Melbourne game was just belief, and that's what we had plenty of, and I think it showed on the day yesterday.
Yeah, it certainly did. And I thought one player who really led the way was Callum Ward. I thought some of his attacks on the footy, his attack on the ball, particularly early in the game in the first half, I thought were really important in setting a standard for the rest of the group to follow. And we know that Whitfield and Kelly and all those guys through the middle of the ground did that. But I thought Ward was the one that started you off yesterday.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. He's an absolute superstar and someone that leads our team really well. Obviously ex-captain and still a great leader for our club. But, Wardy's really good at setting the tone at the start of the game. And like you said, he did that yesterday and we all jumped on his back.
Tom Green, it's been an interesting few weeks. We were raving about him about 3 or 4 weeks ago and then found himself out of the side, much to the surprise of all of us. But his response in coming back into the team and having some faith shown him again by Leon Cameron really stood out yesterday. You must have been really rapt for him. How had you seen his build up into this week and what did you make of his game yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. He's an absolute superstar, Greenie, and obviously it's a really tough midfield to sort of crack into, and once you do crack in, it's a really tough spot to keep. And obviously he's had some trouble sort of staying in with the great midfield that we have, but he got his opportunity yesterday and took it with both hands, as you can see in the way he played. But I think he's just got so much belief in himself, and us as teammates around him have so much belief in him as well. And the confidence that he played with yesterday is obviously the sort of way that he'd like to play week in and week out, which I think he will from now on.
You're an academy product yourself, and as is he, and there's several of you at the Giants as well. Just talk to us about what the Giants Academy has done for your football and just how crucial a role it plays in bringing people into AFL footy.
Yeah, absolutely crucial. I mean, if it wasn't for the Giants Academy, I 100% wouldn't be here right now. To get to Broken Hill, from Broken Hill to play for a Greater Western Sydney team, it's obviously not that easy, being 13 hours away. But yeah, it was massive. I sort of came into that in under 14s, and then all the way through under 18s was a part of that. So yeah, it just gives a lot of kids the opportunity to play and to step up from their local footy level. And yeah, I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity.
It's a wonderful thing, Isaac. Great performance yesterday. It could be a season-defining win for you guys. It's a tough road that you've got ahead of you. You've got at least 4 teams that are inside or just outside the top 8 to finish your run home this season. But as you said, with the midfield you've got and the players around you, we wouldn't be surprised if you're able to cause some upsets there. Good luck with it. What's to come?
All right, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Isaac Cumming was really important for them yesterday, especially when Jack Buckley went down. Pickers and some, as I said, some crucial one-on-one wins that he had, and putting his body in front of an oncoming Max Gawn shows the courage that he brings to the table, as well as the polish with the ball in hand. Yeah,
they've got some fine young players, and Iden and Cumming and these type of guys that we haven't seen a lot of. So it's fantastic to see these young Giants to keep developing, and they're still a young team.
Into the 8 now. The ladder update for 40 Winks. Extended stock take sale for up to 50% off store-wide. Must end Sunday. So they leapfrog Richmond, who are now in 9th, just percentage ahead of Fremantle. Essendon and Carlton and St Kilda all a game behind those two teams. And then above the Giants sit West Coast and the Swans, who played today. The winner of this game, however you want to preface it, will cement 6th position. And they will be 6 points behind, 2 games behind the Cats, who are in 5th, who are percentage outside the 4, with Port Adelaide and Brisbane on 44 points. Western Bulldogs as well, who will go top of the table today if they beat North Melbourne. You can get in touch with us on the Southern Phone open line. Great value NBN broadband offers from Southern Phone. Switch to Southern Phone. Jeff in Malvern's been waiting patiently. G'day, Jeff.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Okay. I would like to express my extreme dissatisfaction with the Marvel Stadium management for leaving the roof open on a freezing cold Melbourne winter's night. I've been on the Trans-Siberian. I almost died of hypothermia. I was going to leave at half-time. Other than the fact that the Hawks only kicked 1 goal, I stayed and stayed and stayed. Absolutely unbelievable. Those clowns were probably ensconced in their centrally heated corporate box. Send them to Mawson's hut in their board shorts and see how they get on.
Yep, fair enough, Jeff. That's all right. Not an enjoyable night at the footy by the sounds of it.
Would you like to explain why the roof was open, Pickers?
Well, I don't think I need to. I mean, the reality is they're the parameters that they've been told to operate in the AFL. I think that, in a perfect world, you'd have the stadium roof closed, but they're not allowed. So.
In fairness to the AFL that own Marvel Stadium, they were just following the instructions by the state government to allow.
Told them to keep the stadium. It wasn't the AFL's doing.
So they could actually play the game.
But I get Jeff's point. It's a cold place, even with the roof closed.
Yeah,
it'd be even more. And last night was a filthy night. God, it was cold.
Hey, it could have been a Saturday night at Waverley.
Well, that's right. Jeff, obviously,
at the end of the day,
he may not have ever been at Waverley. Trust me.
or Whitten Oval back in the day.
Some of those Tuesday night games at Waverley in the middle of winter weren't much fun, I can tell you, in the pre-season.
Before we
the pre-season it wouldn't have been. We must have must have been just night games out there, because pre-season would be warmish.
Yeah, pre-season.
Well, they were virtually...
because that's right. The competition used to run... There was games throughout the course of the year.
Yeah.
Even in the middle of
winter.
But
they were virtually night games at Waverley anyway, because the lights would get turned on at quarter time at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
It was a wind tunnel out there. Cold hole.
This is another interesting text. Can SEN stop the pro-Giant stuff? It's really sickening.
Well,
they won.
We were just talking to their player. What do you think we were going to talk about? Pro-Giants.
They beat the top of the table team.
We had 15 minutes on Melbourne.
I don't know how we're supposed to bag them for that. But ananyway, thank you for your text, 0433 98 11 16. Before we get to the break, Josh in Sunbury. G'day, Josh.
You can't keep everyone happy, Sammy.
I know.
Hey, boys, how are we?
Good, thank you, mate.
Just wanted to talk about being a Blues fan. I'm not overly excited a win to win, but I just wanted to pinpoint Jacob Wiedering and his performance over the last few weeks. He last night was probably, being an avid footy watcher, was probably one of the best games I've seen from a defender all year, if not for a few years. And even the other thing I noticed is when he does get outmarked by his opponent, he always leads them towards the boundary. Like Rory Lobb kicked that amazing goal, but it was 45 over the boundary. Rarely does he ever give up a mark within the 45 degree. I wanted to get your opinion on Weeders and what you guys think about him.
Well, I'm a massive fan, Josh, obviously, but yeah, look, he's a pro, and he's been a pro since he was a kid. Like, he's always been a very smart defender. You know, he was the number one draft pick for a reason. He played defence as a junior better than any junior I've ever seen, and he's taken it into AFL footy, you know, and he's just been a star player, a best and fairest winner last year. And the fact that the Herald Sun couldn't get him in the first 8 players and the best today was quite staggering. I thought he was on the best couple of players on the ground, but anyway.
I remember Dan Merritt telling me that he went up and did some training with Brisbane, I think, in a pre-season.
Yeah.
And Dan just said he carries himself like a 10-year veteran.
Yeah, no, that's how he is.
He's
He's a mature young bloke, but a very, very smart defender. And Josh makes a really good point. He doesn't he pushes defenders where he wants them to go.
Yeah.
So if you're going to outmark me, go and do it from the boundary line, old mate.
Very good in the one-on-ones.
And Josh was spot on because Rory Lobb is a very difficult opponent because he's a lot taller than Wiedering. And the goal he did kick was a thumper from the boundary line, so it was a good effort.
We'll talk about the Hawks and Port Adelaide yesterday, also the Lions and the Crows. That's up next Sunday Crunch Time.
A sports news update for Rolled. New dumpling range from Rolled Vietnamese.
Hi, I'm Judd Boaz with a sports news update. At Wimbledon, Nick Kyrgios is out of the tournament after retiring hurt from his third-round match with Canadian 16th seed Felix Auger-Aliassime. Kyrgios received treatment for an abdominal injury before retiring in the second set, but Ash Barty had no such problem in her third-round match, with the world number 1 defeating Czech player Katerina Siniakova in straight sets. In the Tour de France, defending champion Tadej Pogačar made his move in a rain-soaked 8th stage, riding clear of his rivals and reclaiming the yellow jersey. And the fairy tale continues for Denmark at Euro 2020 as they defeated the Czech Republic 2-1 to move on to the semi-finals. Meanwhile, England brutalised Ukraine, putting 4 goals past them. It took Tottenham's Harry Kane just 4 minutes to open his ledger, with England dominating the game and setting up a clash with the Danes in the semis. And that's the latest sport for Rolled. Family-made Vietnamese served fast and fresh.
You're listening to Crunch Time. You're listening to Crunch Time.
I don't feel particularly early. They applied a lot of pressure. I just felt it's hard to say, but it looked like we were overwhelmed with the occasion, to be fair. We made so many errors with the ball. Some of it was to do with Port's pressure, of course, but some was just to do with us being too frantic with the footy when we had a chance to get composure with the ball. And, you know, if anything, strangely enough, it was like our lads were trying too hard. You know, we lost our balance a lot of, you know, in general play and around structure, just by Beast the honeypot trying too hard to go in and get the ball.
Hawthorn coach Alistair Clarkson yesterday after the Power held them out for a 34-point win, and they get into the top 4 at the expense of Geelong, just ahead of them on percentage. So it was an incredible week. It was a magnificent build-up to a truly special night in the history of the game, becoming only the 5th player to ever play 400 games, Sean Burgoyne, and more importantly, the first ever Indigenous player to reach that incredible milestone. So it had been done wonderfully by the Hawthorn Footy Club and the game as a whole through the week to celebrate that. The tribute video that Hawthorn put up with some of the biggest names in sport, Paddy Mills and Kathy Freeman, and then a heap of ex-teammates and opponents all the way through, politicians, extraordinarily well done. And then to see Sid Jackson and Gavin Wanganeen, as well as the Welcome to Country and the didgeridoo before the game, and the Silk 400 holograms that were put onto the field, and then the guard of honour of old teammates and opponents and the other members of the 400 club, friends, family. Just a wonderful occasion. And then the guard of honour as he was taken off the ground with Boak and Liam Shields underneath. Just a wonderfully well put together celebration. But Alistair Clarkson saying, Pickers, that maybe the occasion got the better of Hawthorn. They kicked the first goal and they sort of went to water a little bit after that. Port whacked on 9 in a row.
Yeah, they did, and they were, they're a good team, Port Adelaide. They're a top 4 team, Hawthorn in the bottom 4. So, I mean, you'd expect a response from Port Adelaide, but yeah, they were pretty ordinary early, Hawthorn, to be fair. And Alistair summed it up quite nicely, I thought. They tried really hard in the second half, but damage was done. You're 7 goals down at half time. You're not going to win too many games against good teams.
So, how do you add to... What more can we say about Sean Burgoyne, a 4-time premiership player? He's been All-Australian. He's captained his country. This is a guy who's probably the most versatile. Well, he's the most versatile player that's ever played the game. He's the greatest Swiss Army knife we've ever seen, and I think I've said it a few times that I was trying to equate him to a superhero, and I came up with Iron Man, not just because of his longevity, but because Tony Stark had about 15 different Iron Man suits, and they were all for a different occasion, and that's what Sean Burgoyne was. There was a different Sean Burgoyne for every major occasion, and those occasions were the biggest moments in the games. They were defining moments in games, and that's where he was at his absolute best.
Yeah, well, he's a fabulous footballer. We know that, and he's a big occasion player, which is why he's been able to. And I know he's a favourite of Alistair Clarkson's. I mean, he went and got him from Port Adelaide, knew the qualities that he was going to bring to the footy club if they got his body right, and he trusted Andrew Russell, who was the head of the fitness at Hawthorn at the time, knew him well from Port Adelaide, who had some knee problems. He was a wonderful player for Port, but he's been a wonderful player for Hawthorn.
But also in the modern game, you talk about the body to be doing it for 21 years. It's an extraordinary career.
It is, yeah, it is, absolutely, especially when he had a lot of injuries early. So he's been able to maintain his fitness levels he's obviously not ripped fit like he would have been when he was 18 or 19, and heard Campbell Brown talking yesterday about the fact that he spends a lot of time on the Ultra G, doesn't train a lot, so he's been able to maintain a program that's got him out in the ground. And doesn't matter how hard you train. The reality is what you deliver on a Saturday that people judge you on. They don't judge you on how well you train. Internally they might when they're picking the team, but when you're a player of that ability, but you're right, his ability to go down in the back pocket and lock someone down, or his ability to go forward and kick a goal when needed, or in the middle of the ground to get a clearance. No, he's a fabulous footballer.
It was special viewing last night, even the shot of him walking out, leading the team, just the look straight in his eye, and him giving the squad a little pep up. I'm envious of you that you were calling that game last night, Sammy, because I think you were there for a pretty special occasion.
I was very grateful, and I was even more grateful for the hookup I got with the Silk 400 T-shirt, which I've got on under the jumper today.
Look at that, he's unveiled
very, very happy.
Honestly, you might as well leave your duffel coat on.
I went full Nuffy.